Hello, mate.
Oh.
Right. What do you want to talk about?
Where do you want to start?
No, I say that for the camera, because we started talking about all sorts of random stuff, and it was all really interesting. So I had to keep saying, stop, don't talk about that now. So, I mean, obviously we'll talk about some house building and property stuff, but who knows where that might all go. Mm-hmm. So anyway, where do we start? Where did you start?
Well, from the beginning?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so I was a little shit at school, and they said, right, let's get him out, and let's go and they put me on a construction programme. So I went on site working 3 days a week, and then went to school 2 days.
Oh,
and
really?
then it just got less and less, and then I ended up just going out to work. And my dad was a builder, so I went and worked for him. Just went out on different sites. My granddad was a pipe fitter, so I thought, well, naturally I wanted to do something a little bit more technical. So I went and trained as a heating engineer. Not a plumber, difference.
Yeah.
I was really good with my hands, very, very good tradesman, but I always knew I wanted to build houses, and I always wanted to do it from a young age. And that was obviously being around it. You know? So back in the day, my mum and dad would do a home up, and the camp stove in the kitchen, and living there while they're doing the work. So whether it be picking up a hammer and smashing myself in the face at like 4 years of age and breaking my nose, I've always been around building.
Nice.
That was my skill sets. And then just where I faced quite a bit of adversity through leaving school, was a little bit lost. Could never quite sit still, so I was really into my football. Still can't sit still now, you can see my hands going everywhere. But because I didn't get an education at school, I was then obsessed with learning and growing.
Mate, so interesting, right? Because it sounds like very, very similar to me, actually. So when you say you didn't get an education at school, what was that? Because you just couldn't pay attention, or what was it?
I was just pissing around, just being a nuisance. Just being a nuisance. Couldn't. I'm a sociable person. So I like the community side of school, and sorry, my daughter's sitting over there, so I'm sort of trying to be a little bit diplomatic about how I put it, but she knows the school. And look, she's just left school now, right? And we pulled her out because she wasn't getting along with it, and now she's working within the company, and she's learned so much more. She's like learning accountancy, she's training to be a videographer, she's getting all these life skills that you're not getting at school, and the crap they make you teach. So my education started at 16. Left school, I had to step up. I had my daughter young. I needed to go and get an education. Otherwise, I would have been pretty fucked in the politest possible way.
Yeah. Interesting. So, I mean, I think that's a really interesting thing with school, because, like, it forces kids to learn in a certain way, but not all kids are like that, and it doesn't necessarily suit us,
Even within our organisation now, Paul, the first thing I try to establish with new employees is how do they like to learn? Because everyone's different, and some people want to just get stuck in, and some people need more hand-holding, and you've got to tailor it. And I don't think, especially state schools, there's not enough in place, and I think there's more that we could be doing. And I'm super thankful that the school gave me an opportunity to go out and work, because then it led me to, when I was on site, I was so inquisitive. I was always like trying to work out what's going on and how it goes together. And I think that's how now, as a developer, I can deliver projects at, on a decent pace. Like, I understand what the pieces go together for it.
Yeah, very good. So you said, like, you didn't really like learning at school, but then when you got on site and stuff like that, you were like really inquisitive, and you started like, how did that sort of develop? How did you sort of educate yourself? What have you done?
Well, firstly, it would have been certain key figures around my life at that point that I drew onto, and then you get into certain books and Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or whatever they might be at the time. But I still think, this is really interesting, and a question I've got for you as well that's come out, is I'd call it the old guard, right? They don't want to, like, especially in property. So I had the construction experience, but I had to fill the gaps for the land and planning side. That was probably a weakness. So the best place I learned originally was just by doing it. Did a couple of garden grabs, put the applications, and then learned from there. Obviously train with yourself as well, and then that sort of really started to level up my experience. But I think I did my first refurb project in 2011, then I did a garden grab in 2013, and then sort of had a heating and plumbing business, and it was building up gradually and very slowly. And if you know the compounding effect, if you look at our projects and what we've done, it's that last four years where it's just gone crazy. But prior to that, it was slow, it was clunky. But yeah, I find it interesting. So the question back to you is why are those sleepy developers so hell-bent on holding back their knowledge when people like yourself and like us want to give our knowledge away? Why was it so hard to get back into it then? And I still think there's an element they don't want to share. Why do you think that is?
It's a really interesting question, right? So as you know, I did a talk a little while ago that you were at, weren't you?
Yeah.
And I've not been out and about speaking for like years actually. So it's first time stuff that I don't normally talk about, and including the stuff around that. So for me, right, I know like personally, like, we've all got weird stuff, haven't we? Like history and childhoods and stories and all the rest of it, right? So like I said at that talk, I was adopted, right? So I know, partly as a result of that, I developed this whole thing about I couldn't trust anyone. I had to do everything on my own and all the rest of it, yeah? And then there's been good aspects and a lot of bad aspects to that, right? But so then I end up in a industry, land planning, development, house building that I know what I'm different now, right? So I don't know, I look at it completely differently, but for a long time, you know, it was super cutthroat, super high competition, because there's a massive imbalance, you know, there's not enough deals to go around, obviously, really, until you get good at creating them. So it is very secretive, you know, no one wants to know everyone else to know the secrets and nick their deal and all of that sort of stuff. And so I suspect it's a lot to do with that, which is linked to mindset, obviously. Yeah. But for me, it just got to the point whereby, you know, like I've always been trying to grow personally as well and learn stuff and obviously become a better person and stuff like that. So I like eventually got to the point where I thought like, do you know what? I would literally basically try to flip everything I've done and be the opposite. Like, right, I won't keep it secret. I'll just fucking share it. Yeah. And you know, all this, I don't know what sort of weirdo spiritual stuff you may or may not be into, but this whole thing about like, you know, what you put out comes back and like trust the universe and all that type of stuff. So I just really don't care anymore.
Do you know what I find fascinating as well is you look at like where we're at right now and the top 7 developers, they constitute of like the majority of the houses that are built.
Yeah.
And the way I see things of knowledge, we need more smaller developers.
Totally.
Because they build fucking better stock. And there is still sites to go round.
100%, and that's one of the reasons actually for doing this actually is to like, and one of the reasons I started the training thing, right, 10 years ago, is to support and encourage more of them how to do it right the right way, because it isn't easy, as you know, and actually, whilst you know central government are saying, oh, we need more SME developers, and like they don't do anything to help. In fact, everything they're doing is making it harder, and you know, there's some good like banks and funders and like Close Brothers and Travis Perkins and the Home Builders Federation and a Federation of Master Builders, and there's a few good organisations wanting to support and encourage smaller developers as well. But there's no one else telling them the nitty gritty complexities and details and how to solve all the problems that they got to solve, right? Which is why I started doing what I do, because I sort of know it, because I've been there, seen it, done it, and I'm still doing it every day of the week, you know? Just a quick word to say thank you to our sponsors, LandTech, creators of Land Insight, which is the industry-leading bit of software to help developers find and analyse the potential of real 100% off-market development opportunities. I've been involved in the business for over 10 years now, and if you don't know what it basically does what people like me used to have to do the old-fashioned way, which is hunt around and get together all of the key information that's needed in order to make sensible decisions on the development potential of land. So that's planning data, market research, lists of all of the various constraints, environment and agency information, you name it, massive long list of all of the stuff that you need in order to find out who owns land, what policy constraints there might be, and exactly what you may or may not be able to do with it. All of the industry leading developers use it. and also the most clued up smaller ones. So if you're not already using it and you want to trial for yourself, have a look in the show notes. You'll find a link to get a free trial, test it for yourself, see what you think, and hopefully get busy finding real off-market development opportunities. So thanks again to our show sponsors LandTech, and let's get back to the show. Anyway, so how are you solving the problems?
What?
How are you getting deals done?
How am I getting deals done? Well, our best and most success is always direct to vendor.
Yeah.
And I tell a story of, so when I was doing my garden grabs, I bought sites with planning and
I've got to say, by the way, just for people watching this, I really don't like that term.
No.
Garden grabs. No, it drives me around the bed.
That's what it is.
Well, land assemblies.
But the way I would class a garden grab as a little small, I wouldn't call it, that's not a land assembly.
Yeah.
You know, it's a garage.
What do you mean by garden grab then?
I mean a garage on the side, knock it down, build a house.
Okay.
Because you're nicking a bit of land, aren't you? You're normally squeezing something in for small people.
Yeah.
Oh, better not say that, I might offend someone, might I?
You can say that. Small people need houses.
Yeah, so that would be my interpretation of a garden grab, not land assemblies.
Okay.
But yeah, I know you're not a massive fan of buying sites with planning, but with my skill sets, I've made them work. But I tell a story in 2015 when I was building the second single unit we were building.
Yeah.
And I was still in a transit van. I was still on the tools. I was doing everything within. So that when I was doing those smaller sites, I was doing everything. You know, I'd be doing the plasterboarding, the plumbing. I loved it. But there obviously comes a time when that's not scalable.
Yeah.
And everyone's training's different, but I like to get stuck in, and I learn loads from that process.
Yeah.
So I'd go home, get changed, put a suit jacket on, park the transit van round the corner, and then go knock on someone's door and be like, "Excuse me, ma'am, do you realise that your garden could be worth 6 figures?" And I didn't have a clue what I was talking about. And then, you know, but by putting yourself out there, exposing yourself, showing your vulnerability, opportunity comes.
Yeah.
And then for me, this one in particular came back to me 5 years later. Husband passed away. "Are you still looking, you know, are you interested?"
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah." So then we took that on a short option agreement, got planning, built it. So
nice.
It's about numbers, consistency. We've had conversations in the past as well, and something that I've been guilty of is wasting time on stuff that doesn't work.
Yeah.
And that time, and I say to my team now, is so valuable. You need to be spending it on the right, like, you know, doing your land studies, ascertaining the areas that you want to work in, and then getting out there direct, because that's where your best leads are going to come. If you're looking at a site that's on Rightmove and fucking 30 other people are looking at it,
Yeah, exactly.
you're just wasting your time.
Totally.
And it's no credibility. You're going to be paying stupid, nutty money for something. What's the point?
Exactly. And I talk about that a lot, and it's worth expanding upon that as well, because, you know, you know, I do, but don't like. Personally, for myself, I've never bought a site with planning yet. Obviously, when I used to work for big house builders, you got to, right? Because I'm just feeding the building machine with land and planning, right? You can't just focus on off-market sites. So it's worth talking about this, because I know, you know, there was lots of smaller, historically, right?
Yeah.
Most of the little house builders, they were building contractors, built 10 houses a year, 20, 50, couple of hundred, you know, and then they sort of become bigger house builders.
Yeah.
But mainly they were good builders, and then of course planning got so difficult that being a good builder wasn't enough anymore, right? You needed to be, had to start getting good at land and planning, or you went bust or got wiped out, or actually what happened a lot of as well, because it got difficult for all the big guys as well, they ended up buying all the little guys just to get hold of their land. So that's one of the reasons there's a lot of the SME developers disappeared. But when it comes to buying sites with planning, right? Now, I want to talk about this because I know that is super dangerous, and you know, and I know there are other people out there that teach people that that's what you should do, and to be honest, I know that they only teach people that because they don't know how to do it to do it the other way.
There's no questions that the smart money is up front getting the planning. That without a question. And if you are going to buy a site with planning, you need to know your numbers.
Totally,
and the last year, 2 years has been hard, but so I'll give you a case study. So Nutley Dean, We won 2 awards on that site, 14 units, built it inside 12 months. So there's a couple of things if you are going to buy a site with planning that you've got to be able to do. And you've got to be able to get on site day one, because if you're dicking around with conditions, your interest burn is just going up. So you need to be able to get in and out quickly, and you need to be paying the right level of money for it. And if it's online, that's not going to happen. So Nutley Dean, we did a case study on...
And you got planning on that yourself, yeah?
No. So we bought it. No, we did
bought that with planning.
Bought it with planning. But what we were trying to do was a land study we did. It was off the back of COVID, and we were like, we want to build in the Greenbelt. So we did a load of letters, and this one came back. And it happened that someone had got planning through Brexit, couldn't get funding, and they lost their deal. And this is another reason why I don't think you can just be a trader. You've got to be able to do both, because in that situation, for whatever reason, tricky market, he couldn't flip the site back on.
Yeah, got you. Yeah.
Someone else came in, he didn't like him. Long story short, he went with us, and we managed to make that site work, and it worked out very, very well for us. But if you'd have then fast forward that and you'd done that site last year, or you caught your build cost wrong, you are absolutely on the money, you're going to get in trouble.
Yeah. So 2 things on that, just for the benefit of other people, because that's fantastic that it worked out that way. Yeah. But key thing to say, and I know you'll agree with this, if you are buying stuff with planning, right, it's never going to be cheap, because there's always going to be competition to some extent. You can't have a site like with planning that's not in the market, because it's in the public domain. Yeah. So someone, or maybe a lot of people, will be looking at it or would have looked at it. Yeah. So it's never going to be cheap, right? Unless you get lucky. Yeah. It's rarely possible to get a little bit lucky. Sounds like you might have done a little bit there as well. I don't know.
Well, we did our first one in 2013. So
on that specific one, though.
On that specific one, yeah. Yeah,
Was there other people bidding on it?
No, because he was under offer to someone else.
And then it fell through?
Yeah, so it never went on the market.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So he's got a little bit lucky there. And importantly, and this is the other key thing, if people are, and I wouldn't recommend it, right, going to buy stuff with planning, you better be super on it and a shit hot builder.
You need to know your numbers. You need to know what your summary of your build costs are going to be, see what your previous CVRs look like, and you've got to be all over the detail of your conditions, pre-commencements, because you're going to lose your money otherwise. And you have to build quickly to make a consented site work. Yeah. You've got to build at pace. If you don't, your interest burn's just going to come up, and you're not going to catch that S-curve, and you're not going to make the money. So I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think you can make it work, but you've got to make sure you've done your proper due diligence around it. But now, Paul, because we've done that and we've got all those sites behind us, it's probably easy for me to sit here and say we only buy subject twos now. Yeah. Because we know how to get the planning uplift, we know how to get the value, we know what we're doing. We've got in-house planners, and we will take the whole scheme through. And you've got options then, haven't you?
Yeah, totally. And that's like what I always say is like, you need to have a lot of stuff in the pipeline, really. Because what you never want to do is end up in a situation whereby, particularly yourself, like you've got people employed, you've got a good team, you never want to end up in a situation whereby they got nowhere to go, right? You haven't got another site, because that's when you get forced to buy sites with planning. Yeah. That's one of the reasons the big developers have to do it. They've got to keep everyone employed. You can't afford to just hang around looking for off-market sites, but it is worth pointing, because this is I'm just, what I'm trying to do generally, a big part of this is like de-risk things for people and get more new, builders and SME developers doing it again, right?
Yeah, it's great.
But the thing that happens, and I've seen this like numerous times, right? I've been like seen about 4 or 5 crashes and downturns and whatever in my career, and what happens is, this yourself, right? Stuff you look at, the stupid money that people pay for stuff is literally sometimes unbelievable.
It's crazy.
Particularly stuff on the market, right? Because the only way you buy that stuff is obviously by bidding your profit margin away, right? And remember, look, and I trade a fair bit. I sell sites with planning. Yeah. I only build stuff that I really like now, and I know the crazy money people pay for stuff. Now, but most of the time, or 2/3 of the time, the market's going up, and it's that basically gets them out of the shit. Yeah. But until it doesn't, and it's either flat or goes down, and if you got like crazy rising build costs like you had the last couple of years, then that literally wipes them out. Yeah. So I just want to make that point, because I don't want people thinking that buying sites with planning is safe, because it really isn't. Basically, the market needs to be going the right way, and you need to be super shit hot on it with everything in order to make a few quid. And if the market goes flat, or worst of all, takes a bit of a downturn, that's when they get screwed.
You got to know what you're doing for sure. But also, it depends what areas you're talking about. If you're not going to go straight into a big scheme with a planning ticket, are you? You're going to build a smaller unit, which is what worked for us. And if those, you can hold them. If you build to rent.
Well, you are if you're sensible. That's what you're going to do. But it amazes me the people that are relatively new, that they don't know what they don't know, and the stuff they go and try to do, how they get it funded, I really don't know. And and a lot of it goes tits up.
It does. I've seen it time and time again over the years where how is someone getting to that number? It doesn't make sense. But subject twos, that's where you're going to add the most amount of value for sure.
Yeah. So, building, because I know you're really good at that. How do you get things built the right way?
Well, there's always challenges along the way, isn't there? And there's always people, which is probably the hardest thing. For me, it's your upfront stuff. It's all of your technical information, your pre-con, your utilities. They're all the stuff that's really going to delay you. And then it's making sure that you've got good managers on the ground that can manage the theory and the practical side of a program. So, and if you can't, you're pissing in the wind. So, you see managers where they're very good at giving you a nice shiny program, but then they don't actually get out of the office and track it, and you got to be on the phone. If people ain't turning up, you got to be dogging them straight away, and you can't let anything slip. Every day is has to be relentless, has to be militant, and that's how you make money out of your projects when you're building.
Yeah.
Do you flip most of yours, or do you build much?
Probably 80% now. I'll probably flip.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, look, I'm getting a bit too old for it, really. Yeah. I've had enough. Really interesting, actually. Now I told you that little story. Now I know, 1988, when I sort of built my first house, and then it started getting really difficult. I was 21. Yeah. Right. So I was young. I had energy. I wanted to learn. I wasn't going to give up. I was probably like you are now, right? Now I'm like those old blokes in 1988 that obviously thought, fucking hell, I've had enough of this. So I'm sort of getting a little bit like that, but I'm not going to give up, because you can't give up. I mean, what part of the thing is being a developer? You're not the type of person that gives up, are you? Otherwise, you wouldn't be a developer. But so now, but like I say, I'm just as interested in helping other people get it done right before I do give up.
Yeah, I sadly really enjoy building. I love how it goes together. I love seeing sites progress and actually seeing it, and the stuff so we try and stay at both ends of the market. So what I mean by that is I want to build some, in my area, 500-600k houses, which is your entry level for my area.
Yeah, nice. So you're around Surrey way, aren't you?
Yeah, Reigate's our area. Yeah. Try not to go too far, get a nosebleed if we do. We just, it's where we're set. We are branching out now with our land studies though, because you have to. And then we build your higher end stuff around £2 to £2.3 million. Try and do them on had quite a bit of success with buying builds where they pay for the land and then we build it and we do the rest on a JCT, and that's worked quite well for us in the past. That's the sweet spot for me, because what we do is very design led, and whether it be a 600k house, we're still trying to put we within reason. You've got budgets to manage, but we always try and go over and above, because I just think that those top 7, it's just, some of it's just shocking, and I don't enjoy it. I don't think it's just box bashing, and it's all the same crap, unfortunately, isn't it?
Yeah. No, I agree. Which is one of the reasons we need, the country needs more good smaller builders. Because there's not that many anymore, but some of them, they do some really good stuff, But
the thing is you see, we know these courses, right? That go out there and they say how fucking easy it is. Development's not easy. Planning's difficult. You've got planning risk, money that you can lose there. Development, you could lose your shirt completely if you're not managing your cost. All of this stuff, it takes time and experience. But I'm fortunate that property has definitely changed my life for the better, and I do appreciate it and I love it. But I'm also aware of if you're not on your game, and if you're not managing the detail of every aspect of that business, you're going to come unstuck.
That's right. And there is. You're right. There isn't one bit of it that's easy. In fact, not only is not one bit easy, it is all really hard.
Yeah, for sure.
It is big time. So there's no doubt about that.
That's why you've got to be up. You've got to be on it, haven't you? You've got to be reading your local policies, the MPPF when it's just been published. All of this stuff is like you've got to be fucking all over it.
You have.
Yeah.
So what are you up to when you're not building houses then?
I'm big on my well-being. We've done a lot of that within the organisation for like cold immersion and coming into the company.
That's the bit you started talking about earlier, and I said stop. Oh, don't talk about this now because this sounds interesting.
Yeah.
I'm next month in Poland. I'm doing the Wim Hoff thing.
Oh, amazing.
Have you done it?
No. So I'm just starting a podcast, Behind the Mind, and I had a friend Move with Ben come on recently for the show, and he worked for Joe Wicks as a PT, and then now he set up this cold immersion. So his training is slightly different to Wim Hof. Wim Hof's very masculine, and he's an absolute lunatic. Like what he does. I think did like an hour swim, didn't he, in minus conditions.
Yeah.
Didn't he go to Everest or
like
in his show?
Run up it in his
It can only be. I had this conversation with Ben. I need someone to fact check this. Like, was it? Surely it was base camp. He ain't going to the summit in his pants, is he? His nipples would be like. But I love it. I built an actual swimming pond at home because.
Man, that's the other thing. I said stop. I want to go on. Tell me about that. Because I want to do that.
This is to go back to knowing what you. So I learned a lot of my stuff was learned through by doing. Yeah. So I was fortunate enough to do a self-build at home. And this was back, I think before we'd even met, and had this planning son, I'll tell you his name after, and completely led me up the garden path. And anyway, we ended up getting rid of him, taking it on ourselves. And we learned so much through the application. It's in a residential area, special character, conservation area, arboricultural issues, ecological, character, you name it, building line, we had to get through it. And we did, and fortunately, I was able to build a lovely home for my family. Now, there was an ornamental pond that went round it. So I was like, this is going to get smelly and ugly pretty quickly. Saw Grand Designs, the Chichester one, where he comes out, saw that, got in contact with the company, and then built the pond.
Wow.
And now I'm in there 3-4 times a week.
Fantastic.
I was in there -5 last week. So,
amazing.
Yeah.
Oh man, can I come round?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
fantastic.
Come and do a workout in a session. Yeah, you like it. It's in the summer. It looks amazing because it just in the summer it's amazing when it all grows. At the minute, lots of the plants have died, but it's still amazing.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
So what are you doing in Poland? Iceland.
That's Poland. It's
Poland.
Yeah.
So is there water there?
Like jumping in icy lakes.
Amazing. Have you done it before?
No.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, do you know what? I don't know. You fly into Prague, and then it's saying like 4 hours on a coach or something, and it's northern-ish Poland somewhere, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And have you done much cold immersion in the past?
I've been in a couple of ice baths. That's about it.
Yeah. How'd you find it?
Oh man, well it's good. It's great. So actually, interestingly, so I only signed up for this thing about 2 or 3 months ago. So I've been like literally having cold showers all the time ever since to sort of start getting in the groove for it, which is great. Yeah. Definitely good for the old well-being.
The thing I find about it is I've always struggled with meditation. So
me too.
When you're in the water, you can't think about your emails or getting back to that person. Yeah. So for me, it's like just that 5 minutes in there. It's a bit after that I enjoy the most. So doing the stretching outside because you're not cold. And then you get your body used to it.
See, I've never really done that, so I'll be really interested to find out more about what this is that your mate does as well. Yeah.
Move with Ben. I'll send you his details. He's cool. He sells the tubs. He's some really cool stuff.
Very good.
Yeah.
So what's on the what's next on the agenda?
We've got. If you'd have asked me 2-3 years ago, I'd probably had some quite ambitious plans within development. But actually, for me, it's about the company building a culture of people that we want to grow together. I'd quite like to see certain people within the organisation progress and take more responsibility on in due course, and have that togetherness and try and have a bit of fun along the way, because it can be really stressful, like when you're battling with planners and councils and it, so And I think with development, you don't have to hit massive numbers for it to go well. So yeah, carry on building like high quality stock, which is what we do, and helping other developers where we can. I'd like for people to be able to tap into our resources with what we're doing, like within the community, and yeah, build some better quality houses. I think has really got to be the objective for us all, Paul.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, mate. Well, look, I love what you're doing. There seems like lots of similarities, really.
Yeah.
That's how I got started.
Yeah.
Messing about at school, ended up on building sites.
Yeah.
So very good. So what would you say? One final little thing. So let's just say there was kids like us many years ago for me. I don't know how many, few less years ago for you, that like, you know, don't really know what they want to do, can't concentrate, don't like, you know, being brainwashed by the normal education system. And you know, what would you say to yourself, your younger self?
Keep trying to surround yourself with the right people. Seek good mentors. If you're not in a position to pay for it, then just keep knocking on doors and talk to agents, talk to other developers, see what they're doing. Try and land yourself with the right company. You know, we're so blessed, aren't we, right? You go onto YouTube, Audible, like there's so much information there for you to learn and grow with. Like when I grew up, I didn't know you was allowed to be positive. Like, what the fuck's that? Like, you know, and you had a bit of a chip on your shoulder, and you know, you're surrounded by it. It was quite negative at times. It was in my house. Like, it was quite. I won't go into detail of that, but like, you know, it wasn't always roses. So,
yeah, mine's the same. Yeah.
Yeah. But just don't stop learning. And if you can get yourself a good mentor, then get all over that, because it will save you years. I wish I'd had mentors earlier than what I did, like proper mentors. I'd be much further ahead than I am now. But I'm quite content with what I've done so far.
Yeah,
as well.
likewise. It's all learning, isn't it? All growing.
Yeah.
And all good. And hopefully, you know, we've been there, seen it, done it, proved that it can be done. Doesn't matter who you are or where you come from.
That's the big thing for me. Like I don't possess much talent, but I'm persistent, and I've got a much higher purpose and drive than other people. So last year I was in Uganda, and my friend built a school over there called the One Love Project, and we've since like this year we'll be going back out there to build a construction part to the school, and it's about making it more sustainable over there and giving them the tools to build properly, you know. So you go out there and it's like single skin bricks, the rafters are like 2 meters wide and the roofs are all dropping. Well, from a sustainability perspective, why are we not encouraged in these third world countries to provide more sustainable building methods and materials, that they don't have to keep doing it every time there's big winds or floods and these buildings come down? So that's like something we'll be doing this year and looking forward to going forward. So yeah, just help your communities and then try and go as wide as you can.
I think that's key, mate. For me personally, I think this whole thing about community is massive,
Huge.
Whether it be overseas or in our communities here, yeah? Because the bottom line is pretty clear that fucking government don't care about us.
No.
You know, so I think, you know, the people have got to, you know, look after each other and work together, you know? Yeah,
I opened my eyes up massively last year, and it's something I'm passionate about, and you know, I think more there's space for more SMEs or smaller developers. So why are we not giving them the tools to do that? And we do have a housing crisis, Paul, right? What, 300,000 we're meant to hit? What's the closest we got? 180 in a year? So why is there still people living on the streets?
Crazy, isn't it?
It's bonkers.
It's disgusting.
It's not. It does. You feel guilty, don't you? Like,
totally.
why is that? So there's definitely better methods out there that we should be approaching.
So in terms of other deals, you mentioned something about you did something with a bungalow. Yes, there's a site in Caterham that we built last year. It was the lower end stock that we were talking about, and that's, from a percentage perspective, it was probably one of our like best performing projects, and that was just a bungalow wide width plot, and we managed to put 3 houses on it. We have a funny story around it about the planning. It was a row of 3, but we
had original application.
A terrace of three.
Terrace of three. The original application had a pair of semis, and then a detached, which would have been better on the site.
Yeah.
Took it to an appeal, but because we knew the appeals were taking so long, we said, well, look, let's go play safe and go for a row of three. And got the ticket for the row of three. And then as we were sort of just bringing the up to first floor lift brickwork, the appeal came in and we won it.
Oh, really?
But we were under option, the time frames, we couldn't sit and wait around. But, you know, and look, it all worked out well. Actually, you know, it would have been better from a resale perspective, but yeah.
So that's a couple of interesting things here, right? Because I like to talk about things so where people that might not necessarily literally be at the coalface doing what we're doing, actually the people that are actually building the houses, right, don't often understand the implications of some of the shit that happens in the system. So for example, right, you know, obviously land is not cheap. We've always got to beat existing use values in order to, you know, persuade landowners to do a deal with us, right? They always want crazy top dollar yesterday, right? Can't believe us when we tell them we need a year or more to get planning. So we're always under massive time pressure. So you know, the planning system forces us to do not the best thing, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's just the time constraints, isn't it? And then, you know, you've got to manage those relationships because homeowners just get pissed off because they're like, you're 12 months in, then you trigger a long stop and you're in the hands of councils and
exactly.
appeal
and they don't believe because they don't know. And there's, you know, I'm sure you've had this, you know, target timescales are 8 weeks for minor application and 13 for a bigger one. You know, very often you're talking to landowners and they say, well, why do you need 18 months? Or why do you need that on an agreement? You know, you get planning in 8 weeks. Or, like, you don't. Well, yes, you do, because my mate told me this, or I've read this, and it's like, Jesus Christ. like, you know, even getting planning in a year in anything, on anything, even when you're really good and you know what you're doing, you'd be lucky, wouldn't you?
I think one of the problems that we faced recently was that it wasn't getting validated. It was taking like 6 weeks to get validated. Hold on, you're saying the application's 8, so yeah, it's a frustrating industry. Like, what are they going to do though, Paul? Do you think like they need to put more resources in, don't they? Do you see it happening anytime soon?
I don't. Well, look, when a, you know, hopefully a different government gets in, they might change things a bit. I mean, look, it, you know, it can't be any worse, can it? I mean, you know, this is by far the most damaging government we've ever had in terms of messing around with planning and, you know.
Where's your vote going?
Do you know what? I've voted for most of the main parties at one time or another in my life. You know, it's a tricky one, isn't it? I don't want to say I wouldn't, but I'm not going to vote because it's sort of like, well, then it's a bit of a waste and you can't complain. But honestly, I really don't know because they're all terrible, aren't they? They're all obviously. I don't know. It's not easy, is it?
No.
I mean, it's not going to be conservative, that's for sure.
Yeah, shambles, isn't it?
Yeah. Diabolical. I mean, you know, this government has honestly done more damage to planning and the house building industry than any other that I've seen.
Yeah. The thing that kills me is just how under-resourced these councils are.
Yeah.
You know, you try and get some conditions through, like Nutley Dean, we'd sold 6 units before all the conditions were signed off.
Yeah.
And that was like 3 or 4 different conveyancing lawyers hadn't picked it up.
Yeah.
Which is bonkers.
Yeah, no, and this happens. And again, this is all the type of stuff, you know, you know, what we're trying to do here is like talking to developers, talking to planners, talking to architects, basically talking to local residents and anti-development groups. Basically, I want to talk to anyone and everyone that's involved in the industry to see all different sides, and so they can also see all different sides to like understand the problems for everyone else, and then hopefully we'll all be a bit more understanding and start working together and getting more housing created. But you know, hardly anyone, apart from, you know, not even the architects and the planners and everyone else that we have to work with, right? You know, if you're lucky and you get the good ones, they're good at their little bits, but none of them understand all of the stuff and how it all fits together and the problems it causes, do they?
Yeah, you've got to find the right team to work with, and you've got to orchestrate that team properly. And if you don't, because you'll get, we have different architects for different stuff. Ones that are more design-led, actually understand the technical, and the ones that actually understand the technical, they're worth their weight, you know, like actually planning technical. So it is hard. Because the planning consultant gets paid regardless of what happens to your application, right? So if you're not telling him commercially what makes sense and what's viable on that scheme, well, you know, you've got to know your area of what you're going to get there, because we've always stayed away from flats because you just see so many going up and the competition's fierce. Regulations around the building of it as well. It's just doesn't seem, it's not worth the hassle for me. In our area anyway. You know, good quality family homes are always going to be in need.
It's interesting actually. Just talk to me. If you've got a flatted site for flats, like, well, you might change your mind. I don't know. I mean, in an ideal world, I would love to just build houses all the time. But of course, you know, depending on what you are, where you are and what the site is, houses don't always maximise the land value. But if that's your focus and you can just do houses and that keeps you going, then fantastic.
Yeah, it's knowing your model, isn't it? Your area. What's been nice about the stuff that we've built over the years as well is the communities you build as well. And it's that legacy, isn't it, of what you build? Like your Hentucks, right? Yeah. How's that going?
It's just finished. Need to get it on the market and get it sold. It's looking really good. So
much interest?
I haven't launched it yet.
No.
I haven't properly launched it. So, but I mean, you know, it's super nice. Hopefully, that'll win a few awards.
It will for sure. Yeah.
So I'll show you. I'll show you. You can have to come and have a little look. Property development, for one, is massively creative. So we'll come back to that, and the music. Actually, I'm interested to talk about. But so back to the ADHD for the moment. For people that think they might have it or whatever, you know, in this business, you do need to be super on it and super focused with stuff. But also, like I was when I first discovered I had it, I was talking to someone the other day, and I was telling her the thing, and she was basically a land agent that works with lots of developers, and she said to me, oh yeah, most developers I deal with have got it. I said really? Because I hadn't really ever thought about it, right? And she said, yeah. And I said, blimey, that's surprising. And then I can't remember why she said she thought it was, but whatever it was, I don't think it was that. And I'll tell you what I think it is. One of the things that comes with ADHD apparently is a high tolerance for risk.
Right.
And property developers are super risky. Super risky business. Like, you've got to be focused. You've got to be detailed. You can't be scared of risk. You've got to take sensible risks. But you know, if you were nervous and you looked at the numbers and you thought about all of the things that could go wrong, then you're definitely in the wrong business. You know.
Yeah, there's ways of de-risking what you're doing within this as well. And like you say, being that detailed orientated, like. You've got to be able to go in when you need to, whether it be a planning submission, policies,
everything, man,
CVRs, whatever it might be, the whole spectrum for sure. It was interesting to see the different characteristic traits of just developers, but like, you know, tradesmen, like subbies, like the business owners. Like, you can definitely tell. I think that's why you see a lot of them clash at times as well, because they're very similar, aren't they?
Yeah, possibly. Possibly.
Science behind it.
So anyway, tell me about the music. The DJing. What happened there?
I've had to knock it on the head about 3 years ago, just because I got too busy. But prior to that, I was DJing from a relatively young age and making music, and you have to get Spotify out. I'm still on there.
I will do.
It's, but I mean, the house and techno was what I used to produce, and was fortunate enough to play in places like Space in Eden and Ibiza.
Really?
I was a resident down in Brighton for a long time, but just when I had my second child, it was like we were trying to juggle 2 kids, businesses. I couldn't keep coming back in at 6, 7 in the morning, and also the consequences of that lifestyle takes its toll. I actually found a picture of myself back then when I sort of started to slow it down back in 2016, and I sort of decided I really needed to take this health and well-being a lot more serious. The trouble is, you go out, you party the weekend, and then you're not the same till 2-3 days later, and you can't do that if you're running a business.
You definitely can't, not anymore. I mean, it's great when you're young. I actually, I've not even had a drink for 2.5 years.
Oh, nice.
So and it's I feel a lot better.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, my routine's everything. In the gym 5-6 times a week, cold therapy, and yeah, I don't really drink that much anymore. I'll just save it for big occasions when there's sand between my toes normally.
Nice.
Yeah.
But I've always been massively into a bit of house music.
Yeah.
Do you know what ecstatic dance is?
Was that more like crossover of like trance as well?
No. I was talking to someone about this the other day, and ecstatic dance. It basically is like sober raving.
Oh, sorry, I thought it was a fucking like an act, right? Yeah.
So I actually go to that a lot.
Right.
So basically, like sober raves, and that honestly is fantastic. Like excellent music.
Yeah.
And
it's big now. Yeah.
And none of the feeling like shit the next day.
Yeah. Yeah. Another story, but when I had with the podcast I'm starting now, I had started in 2019, but because I got so busy, I had to park it for the minute.
Yeah.
But on that episode, on a few of those early episodes, I had Brandon Block on there.
Oh, did you?
He'll be coming back on for sure.
Nice.
Talking about addiction, and because it's quite close to my home. You know, my dad was an alcoholic. My sister's been through rehab, so I'm very aware of it and very acute. But for me, I'm addicted to my work. So there's pros and cons to that. Like my wife and kids don't see me.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find a better balance, but I think if I wasn't addicted to business and work, I would probably be in the same position with drink and drugs.
Mate, absolutely. So interesting. Me exactly the same. And again, I didn't even realise that. Probably even with within the last year, right?
Yeah.
I found out I've got ADHD, and I realised basically I've been a workaholic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have actually, if someone said that to me a couple of years ago, but what are you on about workaholic? You've got to graft, there's nothing wrong with that. And, look, you've got to be driven, and this business isn't easy, but it's like everything in life. I've now come in and realised there's got to be a balance as well, you know?
It's so hard, and I this is probably where I really struggled 3-4 years ago. I have got better, I'm still not there, because I sit down for performance reviews with employees, and I don't want to tell them to do what I do, because there's not many that can do it, because it's so strict. Like, you can see that's why business owners are 2 times more likely to have suicidal thoughts than, there's the stats around entrepreneurs and stuff is really significant, because it is a lot of pressure. So I'm always conscious not to put it onto people, but I was very much of the opinion of, why are you not number 5? Why are you not grafting? Like, what's wrong with you? But I do get it. But I also, there's the flip side of it. If you do want to be successful, you ain't going to do it by turning up 8 till 5.
Yeah,
it's not going to happen, Paul. You do have to make sacrifices at periods of life to whatever it is that you want to do. Whatever your profession, your passion is.
Yeah. That's true, mate. It's just how it is.
Do you still work? Do you still do 18 hours then? Yes.
Do you know what? But it is crazy, and that's a lot. Literally, I've been trying to wind down. I did retire once. That's when I started the training thing.
I bet you got ill.
I didn't get ill. I just got bored. I just literally. I mean, again, I had no idea about the ADHD thing at the time. But now looking back, it's like, how if you're thinking about stuff all the time and you can't shut your brain down, and you're into something, how are you going to stop? I mean, it is an addiction. That
is the problem, especially with your phone. So, like, you try and say you're going to switch off at the weekend, and then it's there, isn't it? And
it's really hard.
Let me know if you got any tips.
Well, I mean, I'm nowhere near as bad as I used to be. I mean, look, I've moved out of London. I grew up, lived in London my whole life, so it's like a busy, high energy place anyway. So I've actually moved to the countryside, trying to get closer to nature.
Whereabouts?
Devon.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Nice. Enjoying it?
I am, actually. I mean, it's still backwards and forwards. Still got an office in London, so at the moment I'm in London most weeks.
Yeah.
But nice. I'm definitely trying to slow down.
But the thing is, if you enjoy what you do, then it's not work, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I'm never going to want to stop building houses. I would like to get back into my music in further down the line once the business operates better without me, and write an album. You know, so I don't ever see myself switching off. It's a trap.
Well, I don't like who wants to anyway. I don't know about you. You know, I like having fun. I like growing. I love learning. Even now, I'm always into something.
Yeah.
You know, it's all good. I think.
Good man. This is why, for me, why is there not more communities and platforms that allows people, and this is where I'm not sure what it looks like for us and what we're doing at Virtue, is whether we build a boardroom, a circle that allows people to tap in to our land director, commercial director, is there something there? Because if someone's coming in at entry level and they've got all of those costs, how do they get access to that quality? Because you could get lost in architects and planning consultants that don't know what they're doing.
Totally.
And if we created a hub, which is what I think, potentially be able to do.
Well, it's interesting. So you obviously don't know. So like I said, I was just tried to retire, semi-retired, like about 13, 14 years ago now. I was like living in Spain. Long story, like met my kid's mum out there. So sort of ended up moving there, slowed things down. The plan was to sort of like retire, but that lasted about a week, and then at some point afterwards, that's when I started doing setting up the training business, right? Just to make it a little bit more interesting and exciting, and like people used to like come out of Spain. I used to help sort out their deals, yeah. So then eventually moved back here, and then like started doing the Millbank Land Academy thing, and then after that, people were loving it, learning a lot, and all the rest of it. Got lots and lots of people wanted to like carry on, like how can we work with you more, and all the rest of it. So I actually set up this thing called the Development Boardroom, and where the idea was like, I basically help people with their deals. So almost be like, obviously, I used to work for big developers, so their setup is, obviously they got chairman, managing director, all the land director, sales director, construction director. They've got all of the expertise in house. But it's the obviously the MD and the chairman that has to been in the industry for a long time, has to understand how all of the bits work and give it a little bit of a sense check. Very often the MDs and chairman are land people, ex-land, because land's so important, right? So anyway, so I set up this little thing to start, being the chairman or MD of a little group of like developers and stuff to help them out, really. So it's exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
And I might do it again, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have a conversation, because it's something that we, with the team that we've got, we want to give people access to that to be able to help them. So it's what we're doing is we want to build. So I don't have tons of time to be able to work with like on that level, but at a smaller scale to be able to help people plug into our business, we'd be open to it.
Yeah,
so we'll have a beer.
Would you build for other people?
No.
Interesting.
No.
I'll tell you for why.
It's not worth my time.
Yeah.
It's just not worth my time, because.
But I'll tell you what I'm thinking. So just as for an example, because like honestly, I'm like, unless it's something I'm really sexy, really interesting, really different, like the thing I've just finished, right? I just haven't got the energy to be building anymore. Yeah. But I'm still really good on the land and planning, so I'm never short of deals. Yeah. But that's why a lot of the time now I trade them, because I can't be bothered to build them.
Yeah. We've got a lot in the pipeline with our subject of planning, so we're busy with that. Building, you'd like this scheme we're building at the minute. It's called Orchard Farm. It's like 4 £2 million houses, and they've all got like the lakes there. So that's part of the reason for doing the natural swimming pond. I was like put it in the extras list, natural swimming pond. Yeah, we'll talk about the cost of the pond off record though.
Yeah,
it's a bit fucking eye-watering.
Yeah. So you'd mentioned something earlier about some big news in the house building industry.
Barratt's and Redrow.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts?
So interesting.
Monopoly.
Well, so as you know, Barratt's biggest developer in the UK. I worked for Barrett's for 5 years. 20 plus years ago, I left. They're very different business then to they are now.
Yeah.
Now, actually, you know, in terms of the major developers, Barrett's are good. Actually, I do think they're all right.
Redrow have got a decent name as well.
Yeah,
so
Look, for volume house builders, it's horses for courses. It is what it is, and you know, there's some are better than others, but you know, those two are all right. And there is literally just announced talk of a merger, which is like a real.
Do you think they'll get rid of the Redrow name and just all go under Barrett's?
I saw something that said it's going to be Barrett Redrow. Right. If it happens.
Because Redrow, right? they're predominantly more further south, aren't they?
I think they were historically, like, obviously Steve Morgan's the bloke that started them.
He was the Wolves chairman for a bit as well, wasn't he?
Yeah. And they were sort of like North Wales, Liverpool, Cheshire type focus originally, and then obviously they started spreading out. Interestingly, there was a Redrow London for a while, but they gave up and closed it down because it was too tricky. So, but it's a real surprise, and interestingly, so you know, I think, you know, that just goes to show, I think, how difficult the business is. The fact that they would even want or need to merge and join up, because even for the big guys, you know, obviously they need big long-term land supply. They need economies of scale. So even if, you know, it's just more.
Surely though, it's a case of they're doing it from a strategic perspective to lock the land. And you've seen Vistry recently; they seem to be buying up everyone. Because if they take those companies, surely then they've got more in their control.
Well, yeah, because if in a way, if you think about it, so this is an interesting thing. We're going to go off on a bit of a tangent here, right? Yeah. But obviously, the public and the press, and government, who are trying to blame everything on everyone else, right, and not the fact that they haven't created any workable policies, right, and they balls up the planning system even further, right. Like to blame it all on the nasty big developers that are like land banking, right? So they say, and it's bullshit, right? That is not the way. How, and remember, like I was there for 10 years, right? PLC developers, and I've been in the industry for 40 years, so I know land has always been my thing. I know the industry inside out, right? You know yourself, right? If you had a site with planning permission, because this is what the press and the try to, you know. What they try to sort of like say, right? You know, got all these developers sitting on land, ready to go, and they're not building houses because they want to keep the price up, right? That's the bullshit. That's the myth. Like, they're land banking, yeah? Now, if you had a site with planning permission, ready to go, ready to build, would you be sitting on it not doing anything? You can't.
You'd be tying up too much money.
Exactly. You're tying up too much money, and you've got to be getting on with stuff. You've got to be turning over your money. You've got to be building things, selling things, building things, selling things.
Well, we'll know that the Dandaras and their whip control has come down massively though. So they're only building 5 mil at this moment in time.
So what happens? Again, this is just for a lot of people watch this and listen to this that aren't in the industry, right? Don't know how it really works, right? Those land banks, i.e. how many plots they've got under control, they like to talk about. Yeah. Obviously, the city and their investors like to hear a big number, right? Because they've got to know and believe that they've got a big, long, sustainable pipeline. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons they do merge, so that they've got a bigger, longer, sustainable pipeline. Yeah, but in actual fact, they are not ripe, ready to go, developable plots. Yeah, they're all at various stages. Lots of them are tied up on, promotion agreements and long-term options. Some of them have only got outline planning, and to go from an outline planning to detailed planning, half the time it's just as long as it is to go to straight for detailed planning, right? You could be 1, 2, 3 years just ballsing about with that, right? Even when you've got detailed planning, you know yourself how long it takes to sort out planning conditions, right? Sometimes that can be literally years. Section 106 agreements.
Yeah,
So
especially at that scale.
legal agreements before you got to have signed before you can even start. Works, Section 278 works, other off-site works, infrastructure, utilities. So there's a whole load of stuff that means that the land that developers supposedly control isn't developable anyway. So that's the whole point. So I don't think it's not really like they're trying to tie up and control all the land. All they're really trying to do is give themselves a bit of a safety net and a sustainable business, really.
Yeah. Be interesting to see how it all unfolds, and especially with all the recent mergers. So,
It will.
Hopefully they start to put a bit more thought into what they're building though. That just blows my mind, the lack of infrastructure that they put in place. Like, you see these massive developments and there's not even a shop in there.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, some of it, isn't it? It's poor, really.
It is poor, and it doesn't happen that often. I don't see it happen that often anyway.
So where I am in Hawley, there's Westvale Park and Forge Wood, and they've done it on 2 of them.
Really?
Yeah, one's Bellways, and they all jump in now, don't they? They don't.
Yeah, so it's probably a consortium site.
Yeah.
What's the local authority?
One's Reigate and Banstead, and one's Mid Sussex.
Okay.
So,
interesting.
Yeah.
So look, but anyway, that's their issues, right? The national house builders can obviously sort themselves out. Yeah. Obviously, we're all about trying to help the little guys.
Grow the SMEs, let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Wicked.
Okay, mate.
Good stuff.
Thanks for tuning in to Inside Property Development. Please remember to like and subscribe. Do join us every week where we'll be speaking to house builders, developers, experts, planners and everyone involved in trying to get more much needed housing created the right way. We'll learn together how we can collaborate rather than fight, and by working together we can all help create better places, spaces and homes and a much more beautiful world.